Welcome to the 10th installment of our Audi Innovation Series. Over the last 7 years, Audi Canada has been proud to feature conversations with global icons who have invented, innovated, and positively changed our world. As our company continues to drive innovation, it's our honor to welcome these icons who have shared their own innovation stories from the fields of fashion, sports, entertainment, journalism, and the arts. Today, we are honored and privileged to welcome one of the world's most distinguished creators and storytellers to our Audi Innovation stage, Canada's very own Sarah Polley. Having won the Academy Award this year for her film Women Talking, Ms. Polley is now one of Canada's most decorated artists and storytellers. She adds this most recent win to her previous Oscar nomination in the same category and her Governor General's Award. Over the course of her career, she has built a distinguished acting career, produced, written, and directed various dramatic features, and even published a collection of essays, winning the Toronto Book Award. Ms. Polley has built a career around innovative storytelling. She's indeed a force of creativity and is the epitome of who belongs on our Audi Innovation stage. We're also pleased to welcome back accomplished and award-winning journalist Dwight Drummond as today's moderator. Dwight was recently honored with a doctorate from Toronto Metropolitan University. Dwight has also garnered national attention with his new national broadcast, Canada Tonight with Dwight Drummond. Mr. Drummond has brought his talent and passion to the Audi Innovation Series many times before, and we are so thrilled to have him with us once again. So please join me in welcoming Sarah Polley and Dwight Drummond. Enjoy.
Sarah, welcome to the Audi Innovation Series.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing this. We'll get right into it. How did it feel winning your first Academy Award for Best Adapted Screenplay for Women Talking?
It was thrilling. I think because the film for us in making it I think our hope was to have a conversation and to have a dialogue. The scale on which the film got received was so thrilling for us because it meant that conversation had echoes and reverberations and more people participated in it. And in terms of the themes around the film and the things we were trying to raise and questions and complex conversations around maybe themes we were used to talking about but maybe hadn't gone into the nuance of. So that was a really, really thrilling moment because it automatically meant more people were going to be engaged in that conversation. We were going to get to hear more responses, which is what you most want as an artist, I think.
It certainly was a conversation starter, and an important conversation at that. You started your career in film and television as a child actor, and history's fraught with stories of child actors having difficulty in challenging transitions into adulthood. How did you manage to avoid some of those difficulties that harmed other child actors? Because you survived into adulthood, but we also know you had a traumatic experience as a child actor.
Yeah, I mean, certainly there was some walking through hellfire. Like, I won't lie. I don't think that I came out of being a child actor unscathed by any stretch. I think it's been a lot of work. And I don't know many stories of child actors who have been successful as children who get to adulthood without some of those stories. I think that's a very common trajectory. I think that I had a lot of luck. I think there were always angels. So, at any given moment when things seem to be bottoming out, someone would appear, even if just for a brief moment, to get me from A to B or B to C. But I do think a lot of it was luck. I think the fact that I wrote since I was a little kid, I think I've always had this way of being able to process stuff. So a lot of the stuff that came my way was easy to process through the writing process. But in general, I don't see a ton of evidence or a ton of outcomes that convince me that it's a good trajectory to begin as a successful child actor and to then have a fulfilling life later. I mean, there are people who do it, but there's a ton of damage. So
you use child actors successfully in Women Talking, but I guess you had a set that was conducive to what they were going through and you made sure they had a positive experience. I want to get back to that film for a moment. It focuses on the aftermath of abuse in the dialogue and the healing process, rather than the act of the abuse itself. Why was that part compelling to you? What made you want to work on this project and help share that story in that way?
I mean, I think there'd been a lot of talk about abuse over the last, several years, which has been a really important conversation, and the naming of harms and the acknowledgement of harms. And I think that's important ongoing work. I think what was missing for me as a survivor was a conversation about what next and what do we do with this and what does healing look like and what does a way forward and what does building a better world where this kind of thing isn't so so overwhelming, and just in terms of sheer numbers of cases and this kind of constant fabric of our culture. Like, how does this shift, and what do we want to build? So there's a line in the film where Ona says, let's think about what we want to build, not only what we want to destroy. And for me, that was really the motivation behind making this film, is what does that conversation look like?
With a 10-year interval, you released an autobiographical documentary, Stories We Tell, and your autobiography, Run Towards Danger. How did you feel revisiting and processing your own life experiences and memories? And how does it impact your creative process then? Because you go deep in both of those.
I mean, it's difficult. I think making anything about yourself or turning a lens on yourself in an honest way is complex, especially if you decide you're not going to play a character through that. You're actually going to kind of show the ugliness and the vulnerability and the flaws and the difficulty. It's a hard process. It takes a lot of trust. And I also feel like the difficulty of that and the vulnerability of that is what gets me closest to feeling like maybe I have something to offer. So not that I think that these things have been completely successful, and I'm sure I would go back and do them a different way if I could. But I think that feeling of kind of grappling in the dark in a territory that isn't comfortable feels to me like the place where the things I'm happiest with or feel most satisfied with come from.
Well, there's some vulnerability there. Like you reveal a lot, and it works. Photography, yeah.
You reveal a lot. Doesn't work. You reveal a
works.
lot. Good for you for the courage part.
Photography. It played an important role in Women Talking, from the desaturated colors, the wide landscapes captured through cutting-edge technology, helping to showcase these disruptive moments this group of women was going through. How do you feel advancing technology then can help shape the way we tell stories? And I mean, how did it help you narrate this story in particular?
Yeah, I mean, I really had this sense with this film that the fact that they are having this conversation about how to build a different kind of world means that the world they're in right now, even as they're having this conversation, is already consigned to the past. So I wanted there to be a feeling of nostalgia, or, the term I kept using was a faded postcard of a world that's already passed.
Postcard look, if you're watching. Yeah,
like almost kind of a sepia tone of, things have been washed out, things are sort of in the past, and we're about to build something new that actually will be more fleshed out.
Yeah. Actually, I'm seeing that now as I'm thinking about the film. In Run Towards Danger, you explore the concept and the limits of self-care, and a reminder maybe not to shy away in life from things that are uncomfortable. How has your storytelling and creative process changed since you embraced this concept after your concussion?
So I think I used to really view anxiety as a stop sign or an instruction manual. So I'd feel anxious about something, it would be my sign to not do that thing. Now I would say, that's had to have, a huge shift. So in recovering from a concussion, which I suffered from 3.5 years, I had to kind of take on this other way of being, which was if something's hard and triggering your symptoms, actually your brain needs to get stronger at that. You need to exercise that muscle. You have to run towards the danger. You have to walk alongside it. You can't shy away, because actually your brain gets weaker at the things that you're not exposing it to. It gets weaker at handling it. So that was a real paradigm shift for me. And I think for me now, if something's uncomfortable, I really investigate that. And why is that? And actually, is it worth moving with that discomfort to see how do I come out the other side of that? Definitely changed. So that sort of seems to me like the point of life now, as opposed to something to run and hide from.
I like the way you broke it down in the book, especially the Sidney Crosby stuff. That was very funny. You'd have to read the book to find that part.
Yeah, and I think that the important thing too is, just because I'm talking about concussions, is I had a very specific treatment at the UPMC Medical Center in Pittsburgh, and this thing of running towards the things that make you uncomfortable and doing all those things was alongside a very specific program of exercises and vestibular exercises. So it's not just a prescription for everybody who has concussion.
Don't run towards the
go
danger,
into a noisy room.
Yeah.
It's there's specific ways of scaffolding it. Yeah.
It's well known that you believe in the importance of the collective. How does this belief then impact the creative decisions that you make? And what is important about the sense of belonging and collectiveness that impacts the way that you approach your creative work?
Well, I think growing up in film, and this has sort of been my life and my world, I've always been aware of how deeply collaborative it is, and how deeply it depends on a collective, and how hidden that is from when you go and present a film. It's the filmmaker, it's this auteur single vision. It's usually this very kind of dominant alpha male personality that is supposed to represent the vision that has been the vision of hundreds of people who have all been contributing their life experience and their skill to the project. And so I was really interested in trying to create an environment, and again, it's a work in progress, not perfect, but the idea being that we acknowledge what this is, which this is a collective. Everyone is bringing their life to the table. Let's be open about that. Let's be honest about that. Let's make space for people's contributions. Let's have this be a fluid thing that encompasses all of the beautiful people who are in this room. And then let's talk about it that way. When we put a film out into the world, let's talk about the idea that, was the costume designers, or was the grips, or was the camera operators, that wasn't yours. Yeah. And not only that, it's more interesting. It's more interesting to hear what a group of people in a kind of collective, creative, passionate state come up with together than what some dictatorial person, may have thought of alone in a room. It's actually a more interesting story to tell. So I kind of got really interested in that, both in the making of the film and in the rolling out of the film. Again, not perfect, and I think lots of work to be done in improving upon that, but I was just curious about what it feels like to maybe break down those models.
I feel like an important goal, especially if people want to be on your team, if that's the way you're thinking about it. Now, the Audi Innovation Series centers around design and creativity and innovation and risk-taking. How do you define those elements in your own work, and does it manifest in your work?
I always feel like when I'm thinking about, is this going to be worth doing or putting out into the world, I feel like for me, like just watching the pattern of how I've worked over the years, it's that feeling of grappling in the dark. Like if I can't see where something's going, but I'm following a very strong instinct somewhere, but I don't have a model for what it looks like, I can't compare it to something, and therefore I feel completely lost, that feels to me like the path. So I think that used to scare me. It used to make me back off my ideas. And now I feel like that's actually a sign I'm going somewhere where I may be contributing something that, of course, there'll be echoes of everybody's imitating everybody all the time, but there may be something innovative in something where I didn't have a map. I felt lost and I kept walking.
That's risk-taking.
Yeah.
Women in film.
Be stupid too.
Women in film have been excluded from roles and continue to play a minority when it comes to directing and producing what you do. But Women Talking was written, directed, and produced by women. What was that collective experience like?
It was amazing. I mean, it was also about the specific personalities involved. So Dee Dee Gardner and Frances McDormand were the producers, and really couldn't have more amazing producers. And yeah, I mean, it was an amazing group of people, and there was a sense of, going through it as a very holistic process and figuring out how do we make the set conducive to people being home to see their families most evenings, which generally hasn't been the case on film sets, and just being more conscious of people's whole lives, which I do think having so many people involved in it who were moms would really, really help that process in terms of just dismantling certain obvious routines and trying to create new ones.
What's your best piece of advice, you think, for aspiring directors, right? Because you've learned from your experience in the past. You're trying to be the director that you had to go up against in the past. So, and the advice, would it be the same for young female directors?
I met with a young female filmmaker the other day, and she was asking me about feeling that you're not actually good enough and that you're an imposter, and if I felt that.
Imposter syndrome.
And 100% I do, and I think that anybody...
You do?
Of course. I feel like anybody who has any self-awareness probably should feel like an imposter. I think it's a sign of mental health to be questioning and to be wondering. But I think that what I said to her is I think the difference between people we admire and the people who aren't doing that thing is just that people decide to walk alongside that feeling anyway. Like, it doesn't have to be a stop sign. You can keep going. You can feel like you're not good enough, and you can feel like an imposter. You don't have to wait for those feelings to go away to just do the thing, I think. So I think people are kind of always waiting for a mental state in which they feel strong enough, and my gut is just walk anyway.
How do personal experiences impact your professional experiences and vice versa?
I mean, I think they're everything. I sort of think as an artist, all you have to leave is your experience of the world, and whether that's expressed through a fictional thing or something directly connected to you, I think really all we have to leave is our own reflections and insights and hard-won experience, and that kind of filtered through an artistic lens. So for me, it's everything.
Has motherhood changed in any way how you approach the industry and your projects?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have more gratitude for being creative. I mean, I think if you watch kids play all day, you suddenly realize as a filmmaker, my job is literally to do what they do, except I have really skilled people helping me build my forts. And, you know, like amazing people creating the costumes for my doll. Like it's just basically this playground and it's this sandbox. And so I think it's given me enormous gratitude for the job itself and also a lightness around it because, you know, the stakes are not as high for me that everything has to be perfect, that everything has to work out perfectly. And I think it's given me a creativity and a playfulness I didn't have before.
Talk about playing. I love how after you get through the head injury, your daughter's like, "Mom, you're a really good player," because your playing improved once you got through that. Any of the kids showing any interest in following Mom into this industry in any way, shape, or form?
Definitely in fits and starts, all of them. Definitely one of them is very, very interested in acting and in writing. And yeah, so we'll see. That can always change, but for now.
Successful people often talk of the role that failure played in their life and their eventual success. Do you feel that this is applicable to your own life story, and if so, how?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think it's everything. I think those moments where you stumble and you fall are where you learn everything. So, yeah, I tried to get my first film made for years and got turned down every time, each in more humiliating ways. But I think that gave me a drive and it gave me an edge that I had been lacking, and that was really important.
That fortitude to keep fighting.
Yeah, and to just kind of go like, I'm going to do this. And also, you kind of don't know how much you want things until you don't get them. So I don't think it's so bad to have things go your way all the time. I think it gives you kind of appreciation that you might not always have. So yeah, I look forward to more failures. I've had them and I look forward to more.
And we look forward to more of this incredible work you keep putting out into the universe. Appreciate your time and this talk. Thank you for being part of the Audi Innovation Series, Ms. Sarah Polley.
Thank you for having me.
That was fun.